Life is messy. Let us not value false peace over righteous justice. Let us not be afraid to sit with the ugliness, the messiness, and the pain that is life in community together. Our opening words this morning by Reverend Dr. Yolanda Pearce. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to those here in the church and those here who are joining us on Zoom. Thank you for coming through the heat. I hope you all have your bottles and fans and so forth. But yeah, it's really lovely to see you. And whether you are here for the first time or have been here many times or joining us on Zoom, we really welcome you here to our service this morning. My name's Jennifer. I am a student minister and also I'm the lay leader at Hastings and I'm on placement at Plymouth. So it's really lovely to join you all again here this morning. So we join together in joy, maybe in confusion, definitely maybe feeling slightly uncomfortable in this heat. We may have questions, we may come with disappointment, we may just be curious. In the Unitarian tradition, whatever your beliefs and non-beliefs are, you are truly welcome to join here in worship this morning. And in our tradition, we light our chalice. Great Spirit of mystery, God of infinite love, we come together in community to rest and to be renewed. Help us to listen and share, comfort and rejoice. These following words are a prayer by Eleanor Camilla, and they're called Messy, Worldly, Imperfect Love. Blessed are you in whom the light shines, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar wherein the deepest night can be seen, the fire that shines forth in you in uncountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illumines every broken thing it finds. Blessed are you, whom the light lives. And so it is. We sing our first hymn this morning, number 62 in the Purple Book, Here We Have Gathered.
Circle of vision.
As during this month of July we're looking at friendships, I thought we could look today at messiness in friendships, in relationships, and just messiness general. So I'd like to start with a story this morning which comes from Mike Yaconelli. He wrote a book called Messy Spirituality, which really appealed to me. So these are the words from Mike Yaconelli. For as long as I can remember, I have wanted to be a godly person. Yet when I look at the yesterdays of my life, what I see is mostly a broken, irregular path littered with mistakes and failure. I have had temporary successes and isolated moments of closeness to what I choose to call God, but I long for it to be continuing. I don't want to be St. John of the Cross or the Archbishop. I just want to be remembered as a person who loved God, who served others more than they served themselves, who was trying to grow in maturity and stability. I want to have more victories than defeats, yet here I am nearly at 60 and I fail on a regular basis. I'd like people to say in my eulogy, Mike, he was a great guy. Yeah, he wasn't bad. Probably what they'll say is, Mike's life was a little bit messy. A few years ago, I was introduced to a group who called themselves the Notorious Sinners. These are men from all walks of life who meet once a year to openly share their messy spirituality in friendship together. Notorious sinners, well, yeah, I belong to that one. They confess they're hopelessly flawed, and yet they're also hopelessly forgiven. They meet at spiritual retreat centres. So there I was thinking, it's going to be a very quiet spiritual affair. Well, no. We're a different kind of contemplative. Earthly, boisterous, noisy, rowdy, tromping around our souls, hanging out with rambunctiousness. A number of us smoke cigars. Some of us are in recovery. Some of us embarrass with our words and our sailor language. Some show up on their Harley Davidsons. I admit I run with the rough crowd. But what I love about them is their messiness. Their friendship is not perfect. They're unafraid to admit their flaws. Some of them look like pagans. In fact, most of them look like pagans. Whatever pagans look like. That's my words, not his. They are spiritual troublemakers, really. They are full of mischief and laughter. They are truly messy disciples. The notorious sinners are definitely a bizarre mix of the good, the bad, and the ugly, living with spirituality, which defines simple definitions. Oh yes, and I forgot to mention, they are some of the most spiritual men I know. Words this morning from Mike Yaconelli, his book, Messy Spirituality. We sing again, hymn number 11, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
Blessed Spirit of my
hopefully Mike's legacy will be as a messy spiritual friend. So what comes to mind when I say the word messy? Do you immediately think about the cupboard under the sink, the sock drawer, the office, the boot of the car, the stuff stacked under the bed, the piles of paperwork, and that sinky, scary feeling that there may be something in that pile that you haven't dealt with? Maybe the relationships that you have, which are a little bit tricky right now, or have been. Maybe the state of the world, plenty of mess there. The government, the cost of living, the environment. It sometimes feels like what we're being in at the moment is one of those snow shakers. You shake them up and then the little snowflakes settle. At the moment it feels like we shake it and then we shake it and then we shake it and nothing is settling. The things that I have just stated were all the things that came to mind to me when I first started to think about this service. And then I commenced to try and tidy them all up, procrastinating on writing. But now I have some very tidy parts to my home. What it does do is highlight the bits that are really messy. So what comes to mind for you when you hear the word messy? This is an opportunity for you on Zoom to write in the chat of what comes to mind for you, and then I can read them out. Or if you're in the church now, just call out. If you feel, there's no obligation to take part, but if you feel that you'd like to just say, yeah, what comes to mind when I think of the word messy? Is it objects? Is it my life? Is it my relationships? Don't feel you have to share anything that you'd rather not anybody know about. You know about my mess. So I'll give you a couple of moments to think about that, and I'll check the chat also just to see if anything comes in. And if none of you respond, I completely assume that your lives are perfectly and without mess, in which case I will be coming to you after the service.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Mercy Olubokun, and sincerely speaking, I just dropped in because when we come to drop in, sometimes we flow in here to have activities, and I said, let me worship with the church this morning. And she's talking about mercy, and it's, for me, it's already a fulfilled day. Even if I don't do any other thing anymore today, I have gotten my blessing, because it re-echoed, the blessing, the encounter, the experience I have with God in my life. And to everyone who is here, we don't have control of how long we live or when we die, but we know in existence, we always have that strength in love, in grace, to always appreciate who God is for the life he has given us. And that's the mercy we enjoy in him. Praise the Lord.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for sharing. This is from Nick on Zoom. Dirty dishes. Why doesn't my wife wash her own? Okay. I'm not going to say anything about that. From Joan, the garden, my pile of books. Okay, yeah, I have a pile of books and a messy garden too. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? Oh, thank you.
The first thing that came to my mind was Lionel Messi.
Ah,
I'm sorry.
excellent. Lionel Messi, for some, he would say he was the best in the world. So there's no mess there in the way that he plays. Thank you.
My own situation, I'm clean but messy. I don't like tidiness. I'm unaware of being tidy, but I like to be clean. And I like to be in a situation where I can just go, oh, where's that? And it takes me an hour to find it. I don't know where I put it in the first place. And it's sort of like a game you play with yourself. You have a look at hide and seek. So being messy is sort of, it gives you something to do, really.
I like that. Thanks. You've let me off the hook completely. For those of you who didn't hear that on Zoom, we were talking about being messy that gives you something to do, as well as Lionel Messi, who was one of the greatest footballers in the world, or who still is, maybe. That's up for debate. We'll talk about that later after, in coffee. Thank you. Sheila.
Jennifer, I can quite see where you're coming from. The people here that know and love me know that I am currently trying to sort out a huge amount of mess to enable me to move from one place to another. So yeah, all of the above. And all those horrible little things that you find in the drawer, you know, a glass with all different little bits and pieces in it. You think, well, what am I going to do with those? Yeah.
Thank you, Sheila. I think we all need one of those little drawers where everything goes, where we don't know where to put it, so it just goes in the messy drawer.
I have to admit, my whole house, well, flat is messy. If somebody unexpected appears at my door, I'm panic stricken. I've got more books. I've sorted out papers that actually came from the Residents Association that's defunct 10 years ago. I'm just a mess. Everybody knows it, but I'll own to it.
And you're very welcome here with your mess. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. It was really lovely to hear. No judgments here. We have a reading now, which is about another type of mess, and this is read by Sheila. Thank you, Sheila.
This is by that well-known author, Anon. After 3 years working in a bakery, I've come to believe that the best things in life always get a bit messy. Buttercream icing is my specialty. On a good day, I'll make over 200 pounds of icing, just enough to get my bakery through a week of cupcakes and birthday cakes and 4-tiered wedding marvels. Everything starts out looking so pristine. Mixers gleaming, tables spotless. But after 8 hours of buttercream making, a hurricane might as well have come through. Bits of butter and shortening and half-beaten icing are everywhere, smeared on the tables, speckling the walls. My whole corner of the bakery is dusted in a layer of powdered sugar, like an indoor flurry of snow. I'm equally part of the mess. My glasses get so thickly coated that the world looks foggy. You need windscreen wipers, my co-workers tell me. My clothes change colour, and my skin gets stiff and crinkly from the sugar. But I'm not complaining. Of all the jobs that leave you covered in some powder or liquid at the end of the day, a bakery job that covers you in powdered sugar is just about as good as it gets. Besides, if it weren't for the mess, we'd never get anything baked.
Thank you, Sheila. So we come to the part of our service here where we come into a space of quietness, of reflection. So we'll sit together in silence. So just bring yourself comfortable in your seat. For those of you at home, make yourself comfortable. You may wish to close your eyes or just adopt a soft gaze. I was walking to the church this morning, and I was up on the Hoe, and there were a lot of dogs around. I think everybody was trying to get their dogs out before it's too hot. And there were several on those long leady things. And suddenly they all became tangled up. And there was just this, mess and confusion and fluff, barking, and several owners getting themselves into a bit of a, what's happening? So even dogs and their relationships with each other can be a little bit messy. And then I saw somebody who had written in chalk on the pavement up there and said, "Don't forget the connection." So that was quite helpful. Thank you to whoever who wrote those. It wasn't ordered, but it was well received. I have struggled with friendship over the years. Sometimes the conflict, sometimes the loss, sometimes just the difference of opinion. And yet, those friendships have always been worth the struggle. I believe that we all want to have friendships, ones that point us towards grace, and that can be an oasis in the desert. And yet sometimes we all have our excuses about friendships, which to some degree protect us from the messiness and the intimacy held within them. I don't have time. I don't really like them. I've got nothing in common. They irritate me. Don't like the way they dress. We make barriers that stop us from connecting. We sometimes think that those relationships are there for our own purposes. We want them to be easy, comfortable, and fun. And yet, we know that real friendship can be a rocky road. Friendship is about looking after the other. It's about levelling up. As children, friends just used to appear, or they seemed to just appear in the playground. With your next door neighbours, you'd play ball, you'd fall out. I'm not your best friend anymore. They could be quite brutal, but they sort of came and went. And as we moved into secondary school, maybe then on to studies or to work or to raise families, there was that growing realisation that we had to put some effort into it. Some relationships survived, some fell by the wayside. It's sort of inevitable. And then we became adults, and friendships took a whole new meaning. We became busier. We were looking for other things in our lives. And although friendships were precious, sometimes we just didn't seem to have the time. Some of us may have a wish dream about friendships. You want to long for the person who completely knows what you're thinking at any time, knows you inside out, supports the same football team as you. That's also very helpful. But friendships don't often come that way, do they? And sometimes when we hold an idea of a friendship, of how it should be, We cut ourselves off from those people who were probably standing right next to us that we could formulate a friendship with. I can remember thinking if only I tried harder, they would be my friends. If I wore these type of clothes, I would fit into the gang. But that came from a place of wanting to fit in, of wanting to be needed, wanting to be part of. It wasn't about the desire to get to know that person for who they are. And those friendships didn't last very long. And I was left on the sidelines. And I ignored the friendships that would have been rich and dependable. We were talking about cake making. No, I don't know anything about cake making. I'm not very good at it, but we were talking about cake making. And that it's messy. Well, friendships are messy and complicated. So is there a recipe? Is there a recipe for having a good friendship with somebody? I think it's about going in with an open mind rather than going in with an agenda. Someone once told me it's all right for you as Unitarians. You can believe what you like. In terms of a spiritual path, if you don't like your God, you can fire it and get a new one. Is that the same as friendships? If I don't like them, disappear, get a new one. As I found with my own cake making, they don't always turn out the way that I think they're going to turn out. They're complex and complicated. They will disappoint us. People will upset us and betray us, and we will undoubtedly do the same. If we look at stories in Scripture, we are reminded about Jesus' disciples. They inflicted a great deal of hurt and pain. Does that mean we just turn on our heels and walk away? Or do we accept that relationships change, especially our relationship with whatever we choose to call God? Christine Hoover is a pastor's wife, and she wrote a book called Messy, Beautiful Friendships. And she equates friendships like building and lighting a fire. It takes a lot of preparation. You clear the ground, you collect the twigs, you have the matches, you build it in a certain way that it's going to work, and then you have to look after it. We can be ones that sit back and wait for somebody else to do the messy work of building the fire and keeping it going. Or we can be one of those that contribute. We might not even know how to make fire, but we can ask. It's the same in relationships. I often think to myself, the age that I am, do I really know how to have a good friendship with somebody? For some of us here, we come to church on a regular basis. For some, we drop in. For some, it's a whole new experience. We come here looking for something. And the content of that may be very different for each of us. But we are gathered here looking for something. Our relationship with Spirit may be very different. Ask 10 Unitarians and you'll probably fill the rest of your afternoon, if not the rest of the week. And that sometimes means that we have to be patient. We have to be with people who don't agree with us. We may look at their relationships and think, I don't understand. And you may find yourself connecting to people in this sacred space that you would have never have thought possible. When I started my training, somebody who's very dear to my heart said, I'm going to give you some advice. I was like, great. She said, the relationships that you have may be tricky. Some people you won't like. Some people you won't understand. Some people will push your buttons. You'll want to run away. But if you have the willingness to tell the truth, to be challenged, and sit in the uncomfortableness, those relationships will grow. She then went on to say, and that's not just about your friendships, that's about the relationship with the God of your understanding. It's not an easy path. Spiritual connections, she said, are messy. They challenge us. I was once challenged by my minister at the time. It was really uncomfortable and tricky. I was like, right, that's it, I'm leaving, I'm going to find another church, I don't like it. I wanted to run away. And yet what I would lose far outweighed the discomfort of being seen. Because after all, really deep, loving friendships are when we see and be seen by each other. So we worked through it. It was difficult for both of us. And our friendship changed as a result. But it was deeper. True spiritual friendship is the most remarkable friendship of all. Here in this space, we can learn to trust, reveal the good and the bad, our secrets, our concerns, our confusions, our untidiness. And we can learn to savour each moment and accept that our relationships are messy, imperfect, but graciously given. Amen and blessed be. We come to sing our last hymn together, which is 125 in the Purple Book. and is One More Step.
One more step along the world I go, one more step along the world I go, from the old things to the new. Keep me travelling along with you, and it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me travelling along with you. Round the corners of the world I turn, more and more around the world I turn. All the new things that I see, you'll be looking at along with me, and it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me travelling along with you. As I travel through the bad and good, keep me travelling the way I should. Where I see no way to go, you'll be telling me the way I know, and it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me travelling along with you. Give me courage when the world is rough. Keep me loving though the world is tough. Leave us singing all I do. Keep me travelling along with you. And it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me travelling along with you. You are older than the world can be. You are younger than the life in me. Ever old and ever new. Keep me travelling along with you. And it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me travelling along with you.
It's good words to remember. As we travel from the old to the new, we keep travelling along with you. As we come to the end of our service this morning, we come back to prayer and we hear these words by Richard Gilbert. They're entitled, When Life is Messy. It is easy to pray when the sun shines, and we are grateful for another glorious day of being. It's hard to pray when the wind and rain and thunder plague our every step and spoil our every plan. It's easy to be virtuous when life goes well, and our existence is a journey from bliss to beauty and back. It is hard to be virtuous when life assaults us, and our very being is a pilgrimage from bad to worse. God of order and neatness, we give thanks for all that is good. We are grateful for manifold blessings bestowed upon us. God of chaos and disorder, be with us also when life is messy. Bless our coming in and going out from this day forth. May we go from this space this morning in love, in gentleness, in peace, and with our messy, imperfect worlds and relationships. May we be kind to them and to each other. Amen.
Amen.